Dana ipiengu galien. Tadana na ngwini ipiengu galien. Ipiengu galien. Ipiengu galien.
The Museum of Science and Technology, located here in Accra, was established when two lecturers from the Legon campus of the University of Ghana decided to create awareness for past and current developments in the sciences and technologies around the world. They presented this proposal to the then President of the Republic of Ghana, who was in the person of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and he identified the need to create a structure for that. The institution endeavors to inspire those who visit, particularly its more youthful guests, with a desire to discover more about the sciences and technological developments in the world around them. Exhibits include a human heart and a piece of stone from the moon. Join me as we take you on a tour of the Museum of Science and Technology here in Accra.
Salve invem com wawa, avem wawa, ipiengu galien. Dana ipiengu galien.
The museum was set up in 1957 at the eve of Ghana's independence, and was set up by the first president of the republic. And since then, it has gone through a lot of transformations until today. So currently we are running 3 museums in Accra. We have the National Museum, we have the Museum of Science and Technology. We have a very, very wonderful science museum there. And when you go to Usher Fort, there is a newly refurbished slavery museum at the Usher Fort as well.
The Museum of Science and Technology started in 1963 by a group of scientists in the University of Ghana Physics Department. And finally, the old block, which is at the other side of this building, hosted the first exhibition, which was the Akosombo exhibition in 1963. That was a day before the Akosombo itself was opened. Then we moved to this new section of the museum in 2015 with a science acculturation exhibition where we had a group of universities, institutions, and other organizations coming to showcase their scientific innovations in 2015. Since then, this space has been open for exhibitions and a lot of collaborations. Currently, the exhibition that we are hosting here started just last year in 2022 in February, and the exhibition is themed Back to the Science Museum exhibition. The exhibition comprises of 4 different sections. We have communication, we have biological or human biology section, we have wildlife, and we also have transportation as well. And we have a little bit of space exploration, which has a model of the first satellite that was launched into space, as well as a model of the Apollo capsule.
It's very powerful. These are the generations of mobile phones.
So when you go through the communication section of this exhibition, we take you right from basic communication all the way to advanced communication. So you will notice that we take you through a group of drums just to signify way before electricity and other advanced forms of communication was introduced, how locally or traditionally we are communicating within the neighborhood, within the communities, and within villages and towns. And we also, within the community, we have what we call the gong, where the linguist or the messenger usually will use to go around to assemble people so that information can also be disseminated within small groups or sections of a community. That's within a village or in a town. Then with the introduction of electricity, it did not take long, then the telegraph was also introduced. From then, we also got a copper, which allowed us to expand the telecommunication industry and also telecommunication, as well as communication within towns, villages, cities, and even continental. So with that one, we started with the normal crank phones, where you crank it, then it will send an electronic impulse, and it goes through a telephone exchange, where the exchange officer will just pick your call, and based on the extension number, he will physically pick your call and slot it to the extension. Then with a little advance in technology, we got the normal telephone. It's still analog, but this time you can actually ring it. So it has digits that you can ring it, then it goes back and forth. Then once you get the right number of clicks, then the call is made, then you are connected to the person you want to call. Then with a little advancement in technology, we got the digital telephones, where you can actually now digitally just punch your numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, depending on the extension or the number you want to call, and it will call that number directly. And with the digital interface, we didn't need the telephone exchange because now it was done digitally, so we didn't need the human interface. Then we improved in technology. And when we improved in technology, mobile phones started coming. But it will amaze you to know that the first mobile phones that came were analog phones, where when you make a call, we have to have specific masts at specific places to distribute or to send a signal. And unfortunately, because it was analog, it was not so secure. So the digital interface was now introduced. When the digital interface was introduced, now you could actually make your call, and you know your calls are now a little more encrypted and secured. And based on that, the first mobile phones that were digital were the second generation. So the first generation were analog, the second generation were digital. And with the second generation digital phones, there was a new, interface that was introduced, and it was SMS, and it was amazing, or it will amaze you to know. Now we can send emails, we can do video calls, but during that time, SMS was a really great deal. Then we move on to the third generation phones, whereby this time internet was introduced, the 3G internet. So at least you can get a little bit of fast internet. Then a little advancement, we got the 4G phones, which could actually give you everything that the other generations can give you, but much faster. And now with the 5G phones, you can even download 1 terabyte in some few minutes and you are done. Then we also have, as part of our telecommunication or communication objects, we try to create a little household for the 60s and 70s so that we take you to a generation how far we've come. In the same way, we have old VCR or video cassette players. Then we have also the new DVD options. Then when it comes to radio communication, our oldest radio set, which is the grounded radio with a record disc player inbuilt, also introduced in the 50s and 60s, was also used using FM signal and AM signal. And most importantly, during that time, they were using the shortwave or the SW signal. So when you also come, we have the wildlife section, and it will amaze you to know that we have a taxidermy of a water buffalo from Botswana, which was given to the late President Jerry John Rawlings as a gift, as well as a taxidermy of a Nile crocodile, which was also given to him as a gift. And you'll be amazed about the size of the hair trophy of a buffalo. And also, we also have the bone structure, that's the skull of an elephant. And that one too was donated by a hunter. And you'll be amazed to see how big the skull of an elephant can be, as well as also the sperm whale, which we have the upper jaw of it, which is also on display at the Science Museum.
Salve em vem com wawa, avem wawa, e quengo galien. Dana e quengo galien.
When you also go to the human anatomy section or biological section of the museum, it will amaze you to see how your body functions. Like we have a real kidney, which also regulates, and your kidney just regulates your body fluids in the body. So it keeps balance in terms of fluid within the body. And we also have a heart. It will amaze you to also know or surprise you that if you make a fist, your heart is virtually as big as your fist, or bigger, slightly, or smaller. But usually, your fist indicates how your heart will be. And also, we have a 6 to 7 month old baby who not aborted, died, and in the process of trying to save the mother, the baby was removed, and the mother donated the baby, as I said earlier, for scientific and educational research purposes. We also have a transportation section where Ghana used to have a shipping line called the Black Star Line, and we have a replica of one of the ships called the Bia River ship. Also, we have one brilliant young gentleman in Kumasi who was called Mr. Mensah. He also designed an armored car that he drove all the way from Kumasi to Accra for a science exhibition, and he won a prize. And he also donated it to the then president, which through State House was also donated to the museum. Then also, we have a model, a direct replica, the same size and model of the first satellite that was launched into space by the Russian. It's called the Sputnik. So when you come, we also introduce you to the Sputnik, and you see it also mounted or suspending in the museum. So we also have a replica or a model of the Apollo capsule or Apollo model that was sent into space and also brought back on Earth. Then you'll also be surprised that we have a moon rock also in the museum. During the Apollo 17 series program, the Americans sent flag of about 135 countries to the moon. Ghana was one of those countries. And when they brought it back, they also brought some samples of the moon rock. And they donated it to the museum through the then president and through the Embassy of America to the people of Ghana. And that gift is also found within the museum. So the work of a curator is very complex, but I will try my best to make it a little much more simple for everybody who is very interested to become a curator in the future. We usually go on an acquisition, so we will identify objects that are unique or special to the museum. Then we either buy them, we either make requests, and if the person either donates it to the museum or that person may give it to the museum as a gift. So after acquiring the object, depending on the nature of the object, the curator will have to now do in-depth research on the object, get documentation for the object through the process of the acquisition. Then we will also decide how we are going to exhibit the object. So depending on the nature of the object, we can now decide that we have a specific pedestal for it or a specific way of exhibiting the object. So during that process, we will definitely do a lot of conservation work on the object just to make sure if, let's say, we acquire an object which is wood, we have to make sure the wood is not infested. We also have to make sure that the wood is well preserved so that when we introduce it into the exhibition space, we will not get any wood or weevil infestation, or we will not have any problem with the wood collecting or becoming moist or collecting a little bit of moisture. Like when you went to the wildlife section, you saw the fishes. These fishes are different. So to conserve and protect them and also present them to you, we use a fluid or a solvent called formaldehyde. And please, formaldehyde may be poisonous, but under the museum environment and condition, we've done our very best to stop it from expelling any gas which may be poisonous or toxic to visitors. When you come to metal objects like this, we have special solvents that we put around them to prevent decay or to prevent them from rusting. So museum work is a little much diverse, depending on the object that you are introduced to or that is presented to you will determine the mechanisms of conservation or preservation that you will use. And when you are able to get it right, that means the object will be kept for a very long time. But if you also get it wrong, that means you get objects which will not last within the museum. So these are some of the technicalities we have to go through or we introduce whenever we receive new objects within the museum. You are always welcome to visit and learn more. Thank you.
Salve invem com wawa, avem wawa, equengo galien. Dana.
All over the world, museums are a storage place for monuments and artifacts that connect people with their past and then prepare them for the future. If you are interested in the sciences and the technology, here is a good place for you to start your journey.
Sa seu lave invem condaraye, kun lave invem con leovorhun. Bivorhun la invem con leokun, aven on leokun, equien galien.